Good morning, friends. Stephen DeNoon here with Fact News Network. And last night we were reporting to you that the Belarusian army was deploying their tanks there to the border with Poland and also Lithuania. We've seen this on Russian news, as well as Michael D. also on Twitter had shared video footage about this movement of military to the border. And, of course, some people don't believe these things are happening. But President Lukashenko has deployed Belarusian military to Lithuanian border after NATO movements. The video footage you were seeing moments ago, though, was only 15 kilometers to the Polish border. But, yes, Amman News had already reported that he was doing the exact same thing. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko said on Saturday that putting the army on combat alert and deploying troops on the country's western border was his main decision in 25 years. The statement was made after Lukashenko arrived at a military training area near western Belarusian city of Grodno earlier in the day for an inspection ahead of planned military drills. He earlier warned of a threat of outside invasion into the country's west, aiming to the annexing of the Grodno region. And that, of course, as he said, is because of the U.S. deployment of tanks near its own border. And, of course, U.S. is actually deployed there for military exercises, but also the United States has talked about doing a permanent base inside of Poland. And, of course, Russia also threatening to do a counter measure if the U.S. deploys nuclear weapons in Poland. Also, Russia has been kind of showing off some of their military might, you might say, there as a show of force. And I think the reason for Russia doing this is not only with the situation in Europe, but also situation in Syria, with Iran, with the United States and Israel. But you have to remember, Russia is a very staunch ally of Israel, and I don't see Russia engaging with Israel, but they are working under the guise of they're working underneath Russia's working underneath Israeli intelligence operatives there that are guiding Russia's decisions that are happening not only in the Middle East, but ultimately will be used against American citizens. So you got to keep that in mind. A lot of people don't pay attention to the fact of Russia's close ties with Israel, and that the United States is no longer the true ally of Israel as people once thought it was, or at least it may appear that way before the media with President Trump and the things that he's been doing for Israel, which is basically giving them the entire nation. But this nation will be eventually attacked by multiple nations. And Israel, if you'll notice, pay close attention to their relationship with Russia, that with China, and of course our faltering position here in the United States. So yes, U.S. has moved a battalion near the Belarusian border, as we'd reported earlier there. That's on Amman News. And also U.S. to have a permanent troop presence in Poland as Defense Pact agreed. That is also news that we have coming out of Europe there. Another thing happening in Belarus there, this man here sets himself on fire outside of the police station. And it reminded me of the situation that happened years ago that started the Arab Spring. And, of course, then the black man in front of the Washington Mall. I remember having a meeting with one of Obama's then Secret Service agents, and he shared with me that they were using skull-to-brain technology, both the one in the Middle East there in Tanzania, where that event took place, as well as the Washington Mall. So I couldn't help but wonder, why would a man just up and set himself on fire? Unless it is skull-to-brain technology. You'd be surprised what they can do with the technologies that they have today. Won't go much deeper into that subject, but it is alarming. Also, speaking about the situation, this is more, the next few frames we're going to discuss now is more in regards to Iran. As I shared with you back July 16th, email from a good friend of mine that has a lot of contacts in the intelligence community there. shared with me that Israel would go under a lockdown and it would be happening soon. Didn't say when, just said it would be happening soon. And of course, they're doing this during the high holidays, so they won't be conducting the feast that they normally do. But as a result, he said that it would be possibly because of war with Iran, Hezbollah, and Yemen. And now we see U.S. carrier group deploys to the Gulf amid a push for Iran sanctions. And not only are they deploying that carrier group out there, but we also have Syria war, BBC, U.S. deploys reinforcements to Syria after Russia clashes. It may be in appearance as the Russian clashes. Those of you that remember that particular incident there where the Russian armored vehicles were intentionally crashing into U.S. vehicles there inside of Syria, but now the U.S. is bolstering up their own military. So the U.S. has ramped up its military presence in Syria after a number of skirmishes with Russian forces intensified tensions in the country. And U.S. officials said 6 Bradley fighting vehicles and about 100 troops were part of the deployment in northeastern Syria. But it's not just 100 deployment of troops there. We have here from Amman News, U.S. military deploys Bradley fighting vehicles to Syria. But we've also got, and they got on here too, 100 additional U.S. troops. But we have another one in here somewhere. That one's still on 100 too. But I had another article somewhere where there was 1,000 troops that the U.S. has sent over to Syria to bolster up its own presence there. I thought I had that article up here, but I guess I don't, unless maybe I made the mistake in my mind thinking it was 1,000 when it's actually 100. But we do have somewhere where I had that in there. Not sure exactly where that is at this point now. At any rate, I'm Stephen DeNoon. Things are certainly heating up. So keep these things in mind. And thank you for your support of the ministry of Israeli News Live, DeNoon Institute of Biblical Research, which you can do so if you so care to desire to do that by visiting our website, israelinewslive.org. And right there, you can see where you can donate to the ministry directly online, or our address, DeNoon Institute, 8297 Champions Gate Boulevard, number 442, Champions Gate, Florida, 33896. That address will be changing in the near future, but it'll still be good for a little bit. But I do want to make sure you're aware we will be updating our address in the next few weeks. Thank you for watching.